I consider Billy and Mandy to be the funniest series I've ever watched. Not necessarily because it's the most consistently funny show I know, it's more because Maxwell Adams' style of comedy almost terrifyingly matches mine. In the two shows that he created, of which he had creative freedom, I always seem to resonate with his sense of humor, and of course Billy and Mandy is where it's the most effective. I've seen every episode of this series time and time again, and even though I'm familiar with every line, setup, and joke that the show delivered, the intensity of my laughter doesn't change as much, and it's partially because I tend to find not just the experiences of those scenes to be funny, but also the ideas behind the jokes. I'm going to give two examples of the show's humor being effective, and it's from the same episode, which is Crawling Niceness. Let's break down the first example, which starts off with Billy attempting to sleep while also experiencing paranoia after he saw a spider, keeping in mind that he has arachnophobia and is afraid that spider will show off while he's sleeping, and he was about to put himself to sleep right before he witnesses a giant spider, which freaks him out, and he runs to the telephone in order to call Mandy and Grim so they could help him, and when they arrive they express anger towards him for calling them late after midnight just so they could deal with a spider. Now, from the perspective of the viewer, we can easily empathize with Billy since we ourselves also saw the spider. So when Mandy got angry, it led us to reflect on the perspective of someone who wouldn't know the actual size of the spider, and you realize it would be pretty fucking aggravating and stupid if someone called me in the middle of the night just to squash a bug, which makes that scene funny. It also helps that Billy does come across as someone who would do something this mind-numbingly stupid. We also need to keep in mind the pacing. Mandy and Grim arrive second after Billy called him, which makes the audience not have enough time to consider how both of them would misinterpret Billy's call, which increases the effectiveness of the surprise and the freshness of the punchline. It also has some funny implications, like the fact that Grim and Mandy rushed to Billy's house. Now obviously they didn't literally arrive there seconds after receiving the call in universe, but the fact that they didn't even slow down because they wanted so badly to punch Billy in the face for disturbing them at night makes it even funnier. All these things considered, I'm not shocked that I keep laughing every time I revisit this joke. Now let's get down to the second example, and this one's important to me because it highlights the show's tendency to subvert typical story resolutions by going for a more cynical direction. Throughout this episode, Jeff the Spider was proving to be a pretty good guy. Even Mandy, who's not the most sympathetic person in the world, lost all desire to kill the bug despite her agreement with Billy. Now, I don't know if Billy will still give her his allowance as part of their deal, but since she bailed out, it's possible their agreement was broken. But even if Billy will still meet her demands, the fact that she lost interest in squashing Jeff shows how little of a menace he is, and given this, it's common for the protagonist to realize that by the end of the episode. And initially, it felt like that was the direction when Jeff saved Billy from dying, which in typical stories, we would see something like Billy looking back at how his desire to kill Jeff for seeing him as a life threat perfectly contrasted what he ended up observing, which was Jeff saving his life. And Billy initially said very nicely that his life was indeed saved by him, which hinted at a rising bond between them. But it was then immediately followed by Billy yelling at him, "I hate you." And again, this does come across as something Billy would do, since he does have an irrational fear of spiders, and because he's really stupid, so you can't really reason with him. And what was followed by this only added to the joke. Jeff took Billy's open hatred towards him to heart, and he got very upset, but because he's so nice and wants Billy's approval as a father, he volunteered to be squished, and as they waited for the exterminator, Jeff only proved more and more how much of a great person he is, all portrayed humorously, which made his state of rejection all the more sympathetic. In typical stories, what's expected is the protagonist to do a complete 180 right before he would lose the person he used to hate, right until realizing that he was wrong. But instead, Billy doesn't change his mind and continues to hate Jeff.
There's a big gross bug in there! Go squish it!
This is why I consider this to be genuinely funny. And I don't even think Crawling Niceness is the funniest episode of the series, but it highlights how clever the writing of this series can be. Anyways, if you want more videos of me breaking down jokes, you should... wait, I don't really talk about humor that much. And then, I don't know, just watch Billy and Mandy, which you should because it's a really great show. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Bye for now.